Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Our first story is a simple example but powerful reminder of the importance of keeping a paper trail at work. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Won't give us proper safety equipment? Fine. We won't do any work. I work as an industrial mechanic in a big multi-site facility that has a reputation of being super strict about safety. They often go well beyond the bare minimum required by OSHA, oftentimes to the point of ridiculousness. Their safety program is very tedious and zero tolerance, which means if you're caught violating their program, you're terminated on site. All this is good, of course. The employees stay protected and the employer stays protected from lawsuits. That being said, from a mechanic's point of view, sometimes these regulations can make a 1-hour work ticket turn into a 4 to 8 hour work ticket due to all the setup we usually have to do to obey the safety program. Despite this, it's a great place to work. I've been there for nearly a decade now, and I've enjoyed most every minute of it. But as you're about to learn, it didn't always feel this way. When you're hired as a mechanic, they send you to a bunch of classes for training. One of these classes is strictly for safety, and that's arc flash training. If you don't know what arc flash is, it's basically a concussive explosion that can happen when you're doing live electrical work. It's oftentimes invisible and completely unexpected, so it's obviously very dangerous, and all matter of caution needs to be taken to protect oneself from such a thing. When you complete the class, you're eventually given arc flash personal protective equipment, PPE, which usually only takes about a month or so to receive. I know this is a lot of information, but it's all relevant. Trust me. One of my employer's super strict safety policies is that unless there's no other option, any work done on any machine must be in a zero energy state, except for basic troubleshooting. This means that the machine must be locked out with personal locks and tags at all energy sources by a person with proper arc flash PPE before any repairs can be done, with no exceptions. You have to have arc flash PPE to put a machine into a zero energy state. If you don't have it, then you can't do it. Remember, absolutely zero tolerance. Well, after my training was over, I was assigned to an off-site location with only 2 other mechanics on night shift, one of which was also new. Only one mechanic on our shift had arc flash PPE, and that was because he was already a senior mechanic who'd been there for a long while. Well, after a few months of training with this senior mechanic, he got transferred to the next shift, which was the morning shift. This created a problem because neither I nor the other new guy had yet to receive our own arc flash PPE, and we'd been relying on the senior mechanic to lock out machines for us. We addressed this with our boss via email, and he said that we just need to do what work we can, which was just basic troubleshooting, and he'll get us our gear as soon as he can. So that's all we did. No repairs could be done, so all we could do was troubleshoot problems and let the next shift know what we found. By the way, I would send our boss a reminder email every day that we still didn't have our gear. Did your machine break down? Need a new coolant filter? New hydraulic pump? Well, too effing bad. All we did besides troubleshooting was sit on our butts on our phones with an angry crew of machine operators leering at us. Since informing/reminding our boss isn't working, we figured he would pick up on what's going on eventually if we kept going like this. Since we couldn't do actual repairs, we had to leave machines down the entire shift sometimes. When the next shift would come in, they would have a huge pile of work to do that we couldn't do. We tried to explain why we couldn't do the work, but they were having none of it. They didn't like this, and some of them started complaining to our boss. This went on for about a week. Next thing you know, our boss shows up on our shift one day and sits us both down and tries to lay into us that our work ethic is pure crap, and if we don't stop being lazy, then he'll contact HR and they'll find 2 replacements who are willing to work. I explained to him that our company's safety policies are zero tolerance and that since we didn't have the proper PPE yet, we couldn't do much work. He asked why the F we don't have our PPE, and I told him we haven't received it yet. He asked why the F we haven't, informed him of this, and then I reminded him of the email we both had sent him a week ago about it, and his response. He then said that we should have reminded him, but then I showed him my outbox with all the reminder emails I'd sent that were unopened. He He finally calmed down and said that he hadn't seen them because he was busy and that he'd get us our PPE as soon as possible. 2 days later, we had our PPE. Turns out we were late getting our gear because they had been shoved into the corner of the main site's mechanic's office, and no one's sure how they ended up there. He tried to flip this on you guys more than once, and you were able to just point at your emails. It's a good thing you sent those. And our second story. Coworker wants me to give her my stuff and just buy myself another one. I work in a nursing home as a nurse's aide. It's a crap job, but I do it. We have a lady that works in the laundry room. At first, it was nice when she first started working there. She was funny and she brought a little life to the night shift. Then the begging started. One day, she asked if I would take her to the local grocery store. It was literally just down the street, so I took her. Instead of popping in to get her lunch and popping out like she said, she ended up getting a decent bit of groceries. She could hardly carry them in her hands. I told her that I'm needed on the floor and I can't just sit around while she shops. She apologized and said it wouldn't happen again. It sure wouldn't, because I wasn't going to take her anymore. After that, every time I'd try to leave for lunch, she'd stop me asking me to get her something. The first time she did this, she actually handed me cash for her order, so I didn't mind getting this. After that time, she just expected me to buy it for her. Then if I was going to a restaurant she didn't want to eat from, she'd ask me to go somewhere else, even though I said I don't eat at that restaurant. So yeah, she wanted me to spend my money on food I didn't like so I could spend more money on food for her. I told her this wasn't going to happen. Despite not getting what she wants from me, she still tries. My husband and I collect video games and consoles. We have almost any console you can think of. She mentioned that she wanted to get a certain console, and we told her where she can get one for $50, which was a good price for the console she wanted. Her response was, "Why don't you give me yours and go buy the one for the $50? Hell to the freaking no. After this, my husband and I, we always worked together, became tech support somehow. She's always asking about fixing her tablet or phone. I know how to tinker with settings on a phone and computer, but I don't know how to physically fix problems with them. She had an outdated tablet and was asking me why her games wouldn't load. I told her that she might have to get an updated tablet because some tablets won't update past a certain point as far as I know. She wanted an iPad, so I showed her one on Let Go for a decent price. Her response was, "I don't like that one. Could you get me this one?" And shows me an eBay one going for 3 times the cost of the one I showed her. I informed her that I had no intentions of buying her a tablet. I wasn't even going to buy her the cheap one, and she let it go. I know you think she can't do more than that, but she does. Just the other day, she was hanging around after her shift looking for a ride home. Since she doesn't live far from the facility, I said I'd drop her off on our way home. As soon as she closed the car door, she said, "Hey, can you stop by this store and this other store before you take me home?" My husband wasn't having it. He told her that we're not her personal drivers and that she's either being dropped off at home or dropped off at the store. Either way, we're only making one stop for her. She huffed and got out of the car and said, "Guess I'll walk then." The next day, she waited around for people to drive her home again. It was then that I realized that I wasn't the only person she was begging from. Other aides were staying after their shift to avoid her, and some other aides had made the mistake of taking her where she wanted, so they were sneaking out the back while she was begging in the lobby. She went into the parking lot and started screaming. I couldn't understand what she was saying, but I could hear her from inside a resident's room. I had to calm one resident down because she had a lot of issues with people yelling. I also found out that she was leaving notes on the nurse's station begging people to buy her a pack of cigarettes. My response was, if you can't buy them, then don't smoke them, when she told, not asked, me to get her a pack on my way out one day. You'd think with the treatment she gets, she'd stop, but she keeps on. I'm going into work today, ready for this mess all over again. I'd just start blatantly ignoring her or keeping a record of the inappropriateness and report it to her higher-ups. If she's causing issues with the patients and other employees, then they could do something. Maybe. And our next story. You did this to yourself. We tried to stop you. I work taking commercial calls for a SAT TV provider. This was a tech call from a bar on the opening Sunday for football season. They've had signal loss all day, have done troubleshooting twice, and have the soonest tech appointment in their area Wednesday morning, 3 days from first report of the issue. This is common timing, as commercially trained techs are always overbooked and are prioritized for hotels, casinos, hospitals, large apartments, etc. He wants a tech today, before the game. He'll be A.H. A-hole. Me. I'm sorry, but the soonest we have in your area is the appointment you have. A.H. That's unacceptable. I'm losing money. Me. Empathy. A.H. Get me someone who can get me in earlier. Me. Explains this is impossible. A.H. Cancel my appointment, then rebook it for an earlier time. Me. I can cancel your appointment and check next available, but I can't even guarantee Wednesday morning will even be available still. A.H. Just do it. Me. Sir, I'm not going to cancel your appointment, as I'm almost positive a new appointment will take longer. If you wish to cancel and try again yourself, call back the number you've just dialed. Listen to all the IVR prompts and it'll let you do it yourself. A.H. Get me to someone who will cancel it. Me. Gladly transfers to IVR. Well, when I came back from smoking, I refreshed his account. Apparently the IVR was too confusing for him because his random button smashing got him to my teammate. My teammate gave him the same spiel, canceled, and informed him that he is now scheduled for next Monday, first available. He wants his old appointment back. Teammate tells him he warned him, and I warned him, in the notes. A.H. now wants to cancel his service. Teammate's supposed to connect him with commercial retention and tells him this and tells him, I should advise you though. A.H. starts yelling, cancel, 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 over and over. Teammate sends him to comm retention's voicemail. They don't work Sundays. Absolutely not your fault. But to be fair, if I was in his boat paying a large amount of money only to be told, nah, it's going to be later, I'd be pretty hot too. Not that his reaction was justified, of course. And our last story. How one man bankrupted an entire HOA. My friend used to work for an HVAC supply company that was independently owned. The owner, let's call him Jay, built the company himself and is widely regarded as being very frugal and practical. His first car is on the back lot of one of their locations and he still drives it, something from the 60s. Anyways, Mr. J wanted to live in a house that reflected their financial success. Mr. J didn't particularly care, but because his wife had supported him throughout his career, he buys her a house in some upper middle-class McMansion subdivision. The houses are all new, so all the trees are small. A tree in the front yard doesn't survive the winter, so he takes it out of the ground and tops off the hole. A little while later, he gets a letter from the HOA that he has to replace the tree per regulations. He says, piss off. They go back and forth, then he comes home one day to find a new tree planted in the front yard and a bill in his mailbox. They go back and forth some more, and it results in him pulling all the trees on his property out of the ground and throwing them in the street. It ends up in court, and Mr. J instructs his lawyer to drag it out until the HOA runs out of money. The lawyer does so. The HOA's so broke it can't even afford to send out their newsletter, and Mr. J replaces all the trees on his property, including the first one that started it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.